everyone, welcome to my channel. In today's video, I am super excited to share with all of you a full face of Charlotte Tilbury products, including my first demo of her new matte liquid blushes. I have this in the shade Peach Pop. I also have a couple new lipsticks from her to try out with you today. So her Kissing lipstick formula is one of my all-time favorite formulas, and I recently picked up two new shades, Rosy Seduction and Stoned Rose. As part of this full face, I'll also be going in with my contour wand and my original Pinkgasm blush light from Charlotte Tilbury, so we'll get to compare this new formulation with her existing formulas in similar packaging. And then I also have her Pillow Talk Dreams eyeshadow palette, her Airbrush Flawless Foundation, her Hollywood Flawless Filter, and her powder. So we'll have a full face of all Charlotte Tilbury products. So if you're interested in learning more about all of these products or just getting ready with me, just stick around. So to start out, let me just say that I know I'm like the last person on YouTube to review this product. I feel like it's been all over. Everyone has been picking this up. Everyone has been raving about it. I originally was not going to pick this up because I'm not a huge fan of liquid blushes in general, especially matte liquid blushes. But I feel like all the reviews I've seen have said it's not actually matte and the formulation is actually really easy to work with. So that's why I finally came around. That said, I was gonna wait until the Sephora VIB sale to pick it up, but then ASOS was actually having a 20% off site-wide sale, and it turns out that ASOS has Charlotte Tilbury, which I did not realize at the time, and so I decided to go on and pick this up. Originally, I wanted to get the shade Pillow Talk since that's kind of the most neutral, everyday friendly shade, but I guess that's exclusive to the Charlotte Tilbury website, and so I ended up picking up Peach Pop instead. Because I was so excited about the 20% off, I figured since this is my favorite lipstick formula, I might as well pick up some more shades. I have had these in my Sephora wish list for a while, so I figured with 20% off, it was as good as the VIB sale. So that's just kind of the context for today's video. If you're only interested in this blush, I will have timestamps down below in case you want to skip around, but hopefully you stick around for this whole video because I have a lot of good products to run through. So let's start things out with complexion. So I have Charlotte's Airbrush Flawless Foundation in the shade 7 Warm. So this is definitely my summer shade. It's quite deep for me at the moment and a little bit on the warm side. I bought this online without really knowing the shade, so I'm going to mix this with my Hollywood Flawless Filter, which is in shade 3, so this is a little bit on the light side for me. And so hopefully the combination works out to be more similar to my skin tone. And for context, this is her more matte full coverage foundation. Last year, she also released her Beautiful Skin Foundation, which I enjoyed as well. And I actually have a video where I compare the two of them. So in case you guys are interested, that is on my channel. I'm gonna go in with my Rephr 31 brush to blend this out. This is their flagship foundation brush. And I think you can see definitely the shade is a little bit warm for me, so I'm not going to build this up too much today. I only used one pump, which I hope will be enough for my whole face. And this foundation brush is really nice and soft in case you guys are interested. It's definitely the most expensive foundation brush in my collection, but it makes very quick work of blending out the product. All right, there we go. Looking a little bit orangey, but hopefully I can fix that with some of the concealer. So I have this deluxe mini of Charlotte's Beautiful Skin Concealer. I have this in shade 4 Fair, which is a bit light for my skin tone. So hopefully this just kind of balances everything out. And I actually really enjoy this concealer for the under eye area. So I think the reviews for this concealer were kind of mixed because there are some sparkly particles in it. It is kind of radiant, but I actually like that aspect of this concealer. I think it's really nice for the under eye area because the slight reflectivity it has in it just means that you don't need to apply as much product to have a brightening effect. And as you can see, it blends out really easily, and I really like that it's relatively crease proof. I mean, there's no actually crease proof concealer. If you have, lines under your eyes, you have lines, but I find that this concealer does a pretty good job on the whole. So there we go, that's nicely blended in. Now this concealer is way too light for blemishes on me, so on my blemishes I'm going to go in with my Pat McGrath concealer. I have this in shade LM10, and even though I only put one layer of that Charlotte foundation on, I feel like it actually did a decent job of covering up a lot of my problem areas. But just for some extra safety, I'm going to go in with this as well. And I'm using my Angie Hot and Flashy 506 brush from BK Beauty. This is one of my favorite concealer brushes of the moment. So I went off camera to finish blending out that concealer since it was not a Charlotte product. I also put on my ABH Primer and a little bit of my Benefit Brow Pen as well. So now we're ready for my Charlotte Tilbury Brow Gel. This is her Legendary Brows Brow Gel in the shade Black Brown. And this is a brow gel that I have sort of a mixed relationship with. I think it actually makes my brows look really nice, but I find it kind of finicky to use. So if you make a mistake with this, you definitely want to clean it up right away because it is quite a dark pigmented brow gel. But I think as you can see, it does make quite a difference. So here it is with the brow gel, here it is with just the brow pen. But you do need to kind of concentrate as you're applying it to make sure it doesn't get everywhere. So moving right along, my lips are feeling super dry right now, so I want to go ahead and go into one of these lipsticks. So I'm going to start out with Rosy Seduction because I think ultimately I'll probably end up putting on Stoned Rose just because that will match better with the sweater. But let's open this up so it kind of slides out like this. And I was really excited this one was on sale because I absolutely love this packaging from Charlotte Tilbury. It's one of my favorite packaging styles that she has for her lipsticks. I'll show you Stoned Rose in a bit as well, and that's more in her standard packaging. But you can see just how beautifully luxe this is with those jewels on it. And this is what the lipstick itself looks like. It has a really pretty heart pattern on it. So to go with that lipstick, I'm going to first put on some of my Pillow Talk Medium Lip Cheat. This is her lip liner formula, and it is one of my favorite lip liner formulas. It's a nice mix of being dry enough that you have a lot of control with it, and also it's quite long lasting, but still creamy enough that it's really easy to apply to the lips. So there we have a little bit of Pillow Talk Medium around the perimeter of my lips. This is, for me, a very good everyday shade. It's very similar to my natural lip color. And now let's go in with Rosy Seduction. Ah, that's a little bit more pink and vibrant than I was expecting, but very pretty. Wow, okay, so here we have the shade on. And at the end of this video, I'll do some shade comparisons for you guys. This does remind me a lot of Glowing Jen, which is my current favorite shade from Charlotte, and thus one of my overall favorite lipsticks. This is maybe just a little bit more red and a little bit more vibrant in comparison to Glowing Jen. But my lips already feel so much better after applying this formula. I love how it just kind of instantly fills in your lip lines and makes them just look really nicely hydrated. So now let's get into the star of today's show, which is this liquid matte blush. I am really excited to try this out. I kind of wish I had picked this up earlier because I feel like now my expectations are just really high for this product now that I've seen so many great reviews. But this is what the packaging looks like. It does have sort of a more matte finish to the packaging in comparison to, say, her Beauty Light wands. So you can see here, comparing it with Pinkgasm, it does have a different finish. Other than that though, it's the same packaging in terms of this little sponge tip applicator. If you're not familiar with it, basically you turn this from off to on. There's two little things there that say off and on. And then you just start squeezing the product, and usually I wait until basically I can see the sponge move and the product come out. So there you go. And then you can either dot this on directly or put it on the back of your hand and then use a brush to pick it up. I'm going to try both methods today. So I'm going to first just do a couple dots. Wow, okay, that's a very fluorescent pinky peach. Let's see how it looks blended out. I'm using my BK Beauty 109 brush, which is my current favorite for liquid blushes. Okay, so there we have just 2 little dots blended out. That's looking cute. I think I can definitely do a little bit more. In general, this is much more kind of fluorescent than what I was anticipating. Not that that's a problem, but just one thing to note. I think this is really nice for springtime. Where I live, it still kind of feels like winter. It's really cold, but I think this will be a really lovely shade for spring. And I'm going in now with 3 additional dots. So I think you don't have to be too worried about this product, at least if you don't have a super fair skin tone. I do like a little bit more blush, and also since this is the star of today's video, I do want to pack it on a little bit more for you guys so you can really see that shade. But there we go. So this is what it looks like using the dotting method. And I'm pretty impressed how easy that was to blend out, because with a lot of liquid and cream products, if you apply it directly to the skin like that, you tend to get patchiness. But I'm not seeing any patchiness here, so that's great. I would say in terms of the shade, it's definitely a little bit brighter than what I would normally go for, but it's pretty. I think it's definitely nice for the springtime. And I'll give you guys some comparison swatches at the end of this video. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Joy from Rare Beauty or Golden Hour from Tower 28. So I definitely want to see those side by side. Let me, for the other side, just kind of brush directly from the applicator and see how that looks. Ooh, okay. I actually kind of like this application better. I feel like it's looking a little bit smoother, taken directly from the brush. Though I guess if you want to avoid any sort of contamination, it's probably best to first put this on the back of your hand and then pick it up with a brush, because I do feel like I got a tiny bit of foundation onto the applicator. That's the one thing I don't really like about this format, especially if you are pretty slow at going through your products like I am. You know, this is just going to be sitting with this kind of wet sponge in your drawer for like a year or so. But wow, okay, that looks really pretty. I really prefer the way it looks on this side versus this side. I mean, to be fair, this is my bad cheek and I do have some texture down here, but where I applied it, I don't think that's really where my texture is, so this side just looks way more blurred out, in my opinion. I don't know, what do you guys think? This side versus this side. But yeah, I think I will definitely prefer just tapping directly and then going in with the brush from there to get the most seamless effect. Alrighty, I do really like how this looks though, I feel like I was a little ambivalent about this side, but this side I am really, really liking. All right, so now I'm going to turn this off. Always remember to turn it off before you put the cap back on and put it into your drawer, because otherwise, you know, it might leak and get everywhere. With what's ever remaining on the brush, I'm going to give you guys a quick swatch. So this is what the Peach Pop looks like swatched. And as you can see, again, it's not really giving you that sort of matte effect, which I think is good. It looks much more satin. I mean, we'll see how it looks when it dries down, but at least upon application, definitely this does not strike me as matte. I think maybe for Charlotte Tilbury, matte just means there's not additional shimmer particles. Even her Matte Revolution lipsticks, I would say, are not truly matte. It's more of a satin matte. Like, this is a very hydrating sort of formula, but for her Matte Revolutions, they're just like a similar finish to this, but a little bit less shiny. So I was really curious how these new liquid blushes would compare with her previous liquid blushes slash highlights. So this is Pinkgasm, which is one of her OG favorites. So let's do a little bit of comparison. And when the sponge is already soaked like this, I usually like to just squeeze until I see the sponge move a little bit, because that's how I know it's saturated with product. So here we have Pinkgasm next to Peach Pop, in case you guys are curious. I'm not sure how much this will translate on camera, but definitely in person you can see that Pinkgasm has more of kind of a metallic finish. There's definitely shimmer particles, whereas for the new matte liquid blushes, the shine they have is more just from the liquid finish rather than from any shimmer. And so I'm going to take a little bit of this on my brush and just put this kind of almost like a highlighter on the high points of my cheeks. So I know this will change the color a little bit, but I just want to kind of compare these on the cheeks. All right, so hopefully you guys can see that. I mean, it's not looking the best because I didn't blend it out that much. It's sort of like a line, but this is what the Pinkgasm looks like in comparison to the Peach Pop. Let me actually blend this out a little bit more. All right, I think that looks a little bit better. So again, here's the side that has Pinkgasm. I think you can see a lot more pigmentation, a lot more pink, and also maybe a little bit more sheen on the cheeks. Whereas this side now, it's kind of dried down more, and so it's more of that kind of natural finish. Let's balance things out now and put this on the side of the cheek as well. Yeah, okay, so definitely I would say at the moment for me, Pinkgasm is not really the best for highlight. It's giving a decent amount of pigmentation. I feel like it's almost a little bit deeper than this new liquid blush, and so it's not necessarily achieving the effect I want in terms of highlight, but that's okay. Hopefully this at least gives you a sense of sort of how they look side by side. This top part is where they're layered on top of each other, and then this bottom part just has the peach pop. And let me actually turn down the brightness a little bit so hopefully you guys can see that a little bit more clearly. The Pinkgasm versus the peach pop. So now for bronzer, let's go in with her contour wand, which I have in fair medium. And I've actually been using this quite a lot. I feel like when I first got this, I wasn't necessarily that keen on it, but it's been so popular lately. I've ended up thinking about this product quite a bit and pulling it out quite a bit as well. So I just took some on my BK Beauty 107 brush. Whoops, okay, that was actually, maybe I took a little bit much. All right. I probably should have dotted this onto my face the way I normally do, but it's okay. We're gonna just put this, just gonna try to even this out. Oh man, okay, whoops, I definitely squeezed out too much of this. For context, usually I do the method where I dot it on, but today I thought I was gonna be ambitious and just put it directly on the sponge, but it's okay. This product blends out pretty easily, so let's just go to blending. I will say that with this product, definitely be a little bit careful if you are working on a very set base. I discovered this recently when I used this on top of my Estee Lauder Double Wear foundation. That's very much kind of a self-setting foundation, and this contour wand did not perform very well on that. It was pretty hard to blend out. But today on the Airbrush foundation, I feel like this is blending out quite easily. Phew, okay, I was a little bit nervous there because that was looking a little crazy. So in hindsight, I definitely think it would have looked better if I first went in with the contour instead of the blush, but it's okay. Today, I really wanted to show you guys how the blush would look by itself. Let me actually go back in with that foundation brush just to kind of clean up some of the undersides. Alrighty, so here we have the completed complexion, and I actually feel like this foundation is pretty set already, so I don't actually know that I need to put much powder on. But in the interest of making this a comprehensive video, I'm going to go in with my setting powder from Charlotte Tilbury. I have this in her Instant Look of Love in a palette, and I'm going to mainly just put this in the under eye areas and the T-zone area of my face. This is one of my all-time favorite powders, so I would highly recommend this. It's really good for setting your skin and increasing the longevity, but not making it look dry at all, which for me is often an issue with setting powders because I do have skin that's on the drier side, and so I often find that I go overboard when it comes to setting powder. But surprisingly with this one, even though it's quite mattifying, I haven't had that issue. So moving on to eyes, I have here Pillow Talk Dreams from Charlotte, and I'm going to go in with my Rephr number 16 brush into the lighter matte shade, and just put this all over my crease area. So this is a product that I first reviewed about a year ago, and I really liked it, which kind of surprised me because I really did not enjoy her first Pillow Talk quad. I have a whole video dedicated to Pillow Talk where I go through that and all of her lipsticks and lip liners. So definitely check that out if you haven't already. But I found Pillow Talk to just look very orangey and not very flattering on my skin tone. So I was really excited that this Pillow Talk Dreams, at least on me, looks much more neutral, much more what I originally would have expected and wanted from Pillow Talk. So I'm really glad she came out with this. I feel like Pillow Talk Dreams is kind of the Pillow Talk for light medium to deeper skin tones, whereas the original Pillow Talk really only seems to work very well on folks with more cool toned or fair skin tones. And also, as a general matter, I haven't had the best luck with Charlotte eyeshadows, which I know is probably surprising because most people really enjoy them. So for me, this is actually one of the few palettes I've gotten from her where I feel like it's actually worth the cost. So there we go. That was really easy to blend out. Now I'm going to go in with that same brush into the deeper shade, but I'm going to concentrate this a little bit more just on the outer portions of my lids, just to provide a bit of depth. With some of her previous palettes, I've definitely found that the mattes are a little bit too pigmented for me, a little bit hard to control, / just not as nice as my Pat McGrath and Natasha Denona mattes. But I do really enjoy the mattes in this palette. I feel like they're just very, very easy to blend out and build up. Now with my Chikuhodo F010 brush, I'm going to first go into the deeper shade. That picked up quite a bit. Let's see if I can apply this without too much fallout. So I'm just going to kind of tap this in the outer 2/3 of my eye area. This is quite a flaky shade, so yeah, I'm getting quite a bit of fallout actually. Let me put this brush away and try to brush away some of that fallout. Okay, that's a little bit disappointing, but let me go in with a finger. Maybe that'll be better. I do find with some of these flaky shades, it helps to go in with a finger application. All right, yeah, that's looking a little bit better. I'm gonna do the same thing on this side. And then cleaning off my finger, I'm going into this shade as well. And for context, in pan, this shade looks really light, but actually it has a lot more pink to it than you might expect. So sort of putting this on the inner third to inner half of my eye area. So despite the fact that I do really like this palette, I will say that I haven't actually used it a ton. So even though I enjoyed the first look I got out of it, the fact that this is a palette where there's sort of just one look that you can really get has made me not use it as much in comparison to my other palettes. For me, I'm not a huge fan of just kind of doing the same look over and over, at least on my channel. And typically on an everyday basis, this is not really the kind of look I go for. It's a little bit more deep and sultry than what I would typically do just on days when I'm not filming. That said though, it is really beautiful. I am really liking how this looks, and other than the fallout I had when using a brush, I feel like the quality is really nice on this palette. For the lower lash line, I'm going in with my F06 brush, first into that lighter matte, and I'm just gonna sweep this pretty generously across that lower lash line area. And then just with the deeper shade, I'm going to concentrate that more on the outer portion of the eye. And then let's see if I can pick up the lighter shimmer shade with this brush and just put it on the inner 2/3. All right, I think that's working. Tiny bit of fallout, but that's okay. So here's a close-up of how the eyeshadow is looking. So I went off camera to finish off the eye look. So here we have the final look. What do you guys think? So zooming out, I have to say I'm overall very pleased with all of the products in my look today, and I think overall things turned out pretty nice. In particular, I'm very happy with how this Peach Pop shade turned out. Again, I was really not sure about this product when it first came out. I was worried that it would be a complete disaster, but I think it actually looks really nice and natural on the cheeks. It's also not too pigmented, so it's very easygoing. You can kind of just steadily build up the product. It is a very vibrant shade compared to what I typically go for blush, but I think that this is really perfect for spring, and especially if you do a light layer, it actually looks very natural on the skin. Before we get into the comparison swatches though, I do want to put on the other lipstick. So this is Stoned Rose. This is not a limited edition lipstick unlike the other one. It's part of her permanent line. So you can see this is kind of the more standard Charlotte Tilbury packaging in comparison to the limited edition packaging that Rosy Seduction came in. This is overall a warmer, more orangey and neutral shade. I think this actually looks very similar to my sweater today. So I did my best to remove my lipstick. So for the lip liner now, I'm going to go in with Hot Gossip from Charlotte. This is a little bit more of a reddish, slightly warmer toned lip liner in comparison to Pillow Talk Medium. You can see that shade there. So now let's go into Stoned Rose. Alright, so here is Stoned Rose on the lips, and I'm really glad I saved this one for the end because I think this really matches very well with the outfit today and kind of ties everything together. It's a little bit more warm than the eye look for sure, but then I feel like the peachy tone of the cheeks kind of goes a little bit better with this lip color. So in the future, if I did this look, I would probably do something warmer on the eyes. Maybe actually take some of the original Pillow Talk since that has a little bit more of that orangey undertone. And I'm really excited I finally have this shade in my collection because Stoned Rose has definitely been one of her kissing formula lipsticks I've had my eye on for a long time, but just haven't gotten around to picking up. And so far, I really like it. So I'm quite excited for this. So now let's get into some comparison swatches. So let's first start with this Peach Pop shade. So I have here Golden Hour from Tower 28. Let's see how that compares. This was kind of the immediate shade I thought of. So that one's definitely way more orangey. I also have Magic Hour from Tower 28. I think this will be a lot more muted. Yeah, okay, definitely more muted, more neutral. Though I would say if you mix these two together, you would probably get something kind of like Peach Pop, just maybe not quite as much of that fluorescent neon shade. And then here is Joy from Rare Beauty. Okay, this one actually is the most similar, I would say. Let me blend that out a little bit to make it easier to compare. So here are the comparisons. So again, we have Peach Pop, Pinkgasm, Golden Hour, Magic Hour, and Joy. And in general, I would say Peach Pop just kind of looks like a more muted version of Joy. Like, let me actually take whatever is left of Joy and put it over here. So you can see those two actually look pretty similar. Here it is with lower lighting, so it's hopefully a little bit easier to see. You can definitely see the difference in formulation though. Joy is so much more pigmented, like that was just from one swipe, whereas there's a lot less pigmentation for this Charlotte product. Also, now that these are all swatched together, I can kind of see what she's getting at in terms of the matte finish. So you can see that this is definitely a little bit more matte than some of these other ones. Of course, Joy still needs to dry down, but this is a more hydrating formula in general. That said, on the cheeks, it's definitely not like a dry matte, more of just kind of a natural matte finish. I will say though, as I'm looking a little bit more on my cheeks, I feel like this side looks really good, but this side where I put Pinkgasm is looking a little bit patchy, so that's unfortunate. I think in general, I should probably not mix these two formulas together. I feel like applying Pinkgasm on top sort of lifted a little bit of the product underneath, but it's looking pretty good on this other side. So now let's also do some quick lipstick comparisons. So here is the new Rosy Seduction shade that I tried on today. And next to that, I'm going to swatch Sweet Blossom. This is also one of my favorite shades from Charlotte. Okay, those are actually pretty similar. I would say Sweet Blossom is just maybe a little bit warmer in tone, but yeah, those actually look very similar. I feel like they have kind of a different effect on the lips, but very, very subtle difference. Next, let's go in with Glowing Gen. All right, also quite similar. Maybe Glowing Gen is just a little bit more pinky. Okay, I feel like all of these lipsticks are looking very similar, but in my head, they kind of have slightly different vibes. And then let's put Stoned Rose next to that. So you can definitely see a difference with Stoned Rose. So that one is a lot more warm toned. And then finally, let's go in with Nude Romance next to that. That was the most similar I could think of. And yeah, Nude Romance is a lot more nude, as the name would imply. So there we go. In case you guys are curious, here is Rosy Seduction. Here is Sweet Blossom, Glowing Gen, Stoned Rose, and Nude Romance. So that's it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed this get ready with me and demo of this new product. Of course, this was just my initial impression, so I'm definitely going to have to keep you guys updated and use this in future videos. I feel like today it was overall a very positive impression, but kind of different for my two different cheeks. So that was a little bit concerning. Again, for now, I'm blaming it on kind of me being too ambitious and layering this additional Pinkgasm on top. But yeah, this side is not looking great, but this side is looking really nice. If you guys have tried any of these Charlotte products, I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. And also, if you have a favorite Charlotte Tilbury product, please let me know that as well, because I have a decent number of Charlotte products at this point. She's one of my favorite brands, but there's definitely some that I'm still eyeing and considering. So I'm always interested in your guys' recommendations. And if you guys like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. Thank you all so much for joining me today, and I'll catch you next time. Bye!